You're listening to the Vibrant Vision Podcast, a podcast designed to help you get clarity, increase your confidence, and cultivate the most important connections so you can have the impact you were created to make. I'm your host, Amanda Kerrigan. Now let's get to making that vibrant vision a reality. Hello and welcome to episode 28 of the Vibrant Vision Coaching Podcast. It is so good to be back. 2020 year was a bit of a challenge for me, and I don't know how 2022 went for you, but whether it was a great year or a challenging year, 2023 offers you the opportunity for a fresh start. And I know that at the time of this podcast being published, we're going to be 11 days into the new year. And so it could be that you're like, man, I've already let myself down. And I'm here to tell you that this can be your best year yet. And everyone knows this instinctively. It's the reason that we have videos and articles with titles like 7 Steps to a Brand New You. But here's the thing, 2023 is only going to be your best year yet if you change. I know, let's start off with the bad news first. And the thing about having your best year yet, I hate best year ever because that implies that the best is not yet to come. And I hope that even if it was a challenging year, mine was a bit of a challenge, that it could be your best year yet. And that all depends on the internal changes that you make. Because your circumstances are going to change. And sometimes they're going to change for the better. And sometimes they're going to change for the worse. The difference between having a great year or a terrible year is you. When I was journaling about the end of the year in 2020, I was shocked to read that I'd had a pretty good year. All things considered, even in the midst of a pandemic. And I really got curious, why? Because in addition to the pandemic, which was horrible in and of itself, I also went through a pretty traumatic divorce. And divorce is painful no matter how hard the marriage was. So why wasn't I screaming 2020 stunk with the rest of social media? It was because when life kind of went sideways starting in March and then again really went sideways in July for me, I really decided, I'm like, I can't let these circumstances derail me. I can't let them get the best of me because I had things that I was doing. I had just started a new job that I really enjoyed. And I then decided to move to change states of all things at the end of 2020. And so I really felt like I can't let this get the best of me. I was executing on a greater vision for my life, a vibrant vision, if you will. And so it didn't really matter what the world did around me. It mattered what I did with the world and what it was giving me. This isn't to say that my life is perfect, that I've reached some kind of nirvana. There are more things in my life that I'd like to change. But it also means that I know that even if I face tough circumstances, and this is true for you too, even if we face tough circumstances, or even when, that we can still have our best year yet. So when I prayed through my theme for 2023, as I do every year, God gave me this theme of thrive. And a quick note on themes, because I think a lot of people have this misconception that themes are going to be how your year goes. And I have discovered that that is absolutely not the case. My theme is my point of growth, not that which I have obtained or arrived at. For example, my theme in 2021, as I moved from Tucson, Arizona to Grand Junction, Colorado, was strengthen. And I did not feel strong. I felt beaten. I felt unsure. I was moving to a tiny town, comparatively speaking. Grand Junction is actually a small city, but I felt like, oh my gosh. And then dealing with family dynamics, I felt very out of my depth, and I love my family, but it was really kind of scary. And I didn't feel strong, but I knew that the Lord was going to strengthen me. And I've done a lot of reflecting on what it means to thrive and what it means for us for me and my community, that's you, if you're hanging out with me on this podcast, to thrive in 2023. I don't know a single person on this earth who's like, I don't really want to thrive. Actually, Amanda, I kind of just am content with like merely surviving, maybe scratching my way through life. Nobody likes that thought. And a lot of themes are directly related. So I know people who have a theme of abundance or a theme of fierce or a theme of authentic. And all of those themes are directly related to thriving and encompassed in thriving. So if you haven't developed a theme or been given a theme through divine inspiration, let me encourage you with this episode. It might spark something within you. It might not be thrive for you. It will probably be something else, but this episode might give you some ideas. So what does it mean to thrive? In an article in Forbes, Tracy Brower, PhD, says this: thriving is a cool concept because it encompasses the components of both development and success. It is fundamentally about going enhancement, which may be physical, psychological, cognitive, or social. And this is combined with performance. So it's very cool because it's not just about growth. It's not just about development. It's about this concept of success. And so as we grow and as we develop, we are going to become more and more successful. As I journaled about the concepts associated with thriving, I came up with these themes related to gardening. So I came up with this: planting, cultivating, watering, weeding, pruning, blooming, harvesting, preparing the soil, growing deep roots, producing fruit, green leaves, and growth. And anyone who knows me knows that I know nothing about gardening and have no interest in learning to garden. And so these are the themes and the concepts that are emerging. And from the Oxford Dictionary, I found these: flourish, prosper, blossom, advance, make strides, succeed, shoot up, profit, expand, healthy, successful, progressing, and prolific. So which of these words and concepts stood out to you as something that you would like for 2023? The definition of thriving as far as implementation is as varied as we are as humans. My definition of thriving is not going to be the same as yours, which is okay. It's more than okay. But there are 4 key concepts that I feel like we all need to thrive. So back to our fun little gardening metaphor. First, roots. I talk to a lot of people in my business. It's one of my favorite parts of being a coach, is just talking to all of you. And in my interactions, I've noticed the people who come through hard circumstances like the pandemic, like 2020, like any kind of hard diagnosis, have deep roots in 2 areas: faith and their family and friends, their relationships. That's right. These people have a deep belief in something greater than themselves, and they have strong support systems. So here's the thing. Redwoods have very shallow root systems, which is hilarious to me because as somebody who knows nothing about plants and certainly knows nothing about trees, except for they were kind of fun to climb as a child, I'm like, how can something so big and so incredibly old, because they're ancient, they're hundreds of years old, some of these trees, but they have really shallow roots. But how do they do it? They intertwine with other trees. So when the winds blow, and they do, these trees are not easily toppled because they're interdependent. Just like those trees, we have to rely on our roots and our faith and our community of friends and family to sustain us through the hard times, that messy middle. Second, growth. The redwoods are some of the strongest, tallest trees, and they're continuing to grow. Some upward, some outward, but they continue to grow. Growth is essential to thriving. And I dare say if you don't grow in 2023, you've either stagnated or you've gone backwards. sometimes learning is growth. Okay? Because a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm growing. I'm learning things." I'm like, "Really? Okay, you read 100 books this year, but what have you done with it?" Because sometimes learning is just a fancy way of procrastinating. I would know. I am the pro at procrastinating through learning. So what are some ways that we can grow? We can learn a new skill. I just learned yet another new rhythm pattern on my guitar last night. We can learn something new, or we can try something new. My friend tried to convince me to try some kind of weird, like, quail egg thing last week. I did not grow in that area. Or we can take an action that we have been procrastinating on, whether it's due to fear or uncertainty or not sure if it's the right step. Like Theodore Roosevelt said, and I'm paraphrasing, the best action you can take is the right one. The next best action you can take is the wrong one. And the worst action you can take is do nothing. And so sometimes we just have to take action and see where it leads. Or doing something that scares you. My little sister is really committed to learning and self-development. And I remember one year she asked for the art of French cooking for Christmas. And I was like, what are you gonna do with that? Well, of course, she'd watched Julie and Julia, and she decided that she was going to learn to make beef bourguignon, or as she pronounced it when she was 19, beef bourguignon. So she's still learning to this day. Actually, it was really, really good. She did a really, really good job with it. She won't make me beef bourguignon, usually, which is disappointing. But she's still continuing to grow. She's just starting a new fitness plan, and as part of it, she has to read 10 pages of a self-development book. So she texted me yesterday and said, "What should I read?" So she's always growing and always learning. She's just a great example of that. So you could learn to make beef bourguignon, or I could learn to pronounce it. I don't know. The third thing is cultivation. As we grow, we have to cultivate what is most important and where we're growing. I have an orchid that my mom gave me. It's the only plant that has ever stayed alive in my house more than 2 weeks. My mom gave it to me for my birthday last October, and it's still kind of like hanging on. It doesn't have any blooms on it right now, but it's still like hanging out. And one thing that I noticed is that my orchid needs a few things to make it happy, make it thrive. I have to cultivate it. So I have to make sure that A, it gets like a little dribble of water every few days. And B, I have to make sure that it gets enough sunlight and that I rotated it so it doesn't just get sunlight in one area, that it gets sunlight in all areas. And then three, this is hard, especially for me because I'm an overachiever. I have to prune. And it's that way with our lives, right? We have to prune off the dead stuff or the stuff that I'm like, this branch hasn't bloomed in 6 months, and this branch is trying to bloom, but the dead branch is taking away all of the resources that the plant has. And now my orchid is so big because it's kind of thriving. I won't say it's really thriving, but it's kind of thriving. And so it's so big now, it's grown so much that it needs a new pot. So that's another metaphor. Sometimes we grow so much that we need to change our circumstances and move forward. So like my orchid, we have to do the work so that we can continue to thrive. So if you say I'm going to learn guitar, like I'm learning a couple of new songs this month, it takes cultivation. I can't just water my orchid every 6 months and be like, go with God. Good luck. And please produce flowers because they make me happy. I have to actually go in my kitchen, pull it out of its window and give it water. And in the same way, I have to pull my guitar off my wall. You can see them behind me. And I have to tune it and I have to play it. And I have to water it occasionally. So fun fact, instruments need water too. If you got a guitar for Christmas, make sure you humidify it. But you have to continue to cultivate. Thriving is a day in and day out kind of activity. So our faith requires our time in prayer, meditation, reading of sacred texts, journaling. Our careers need that focus, that determination. A lot of times we do the most watering in our careers. Our finances, pruning. If it's some pruning this month on, okay, what am I going to spend my money on in 2023? Because I don't want to spend my money like I have been in the past. So pruning is painful, right? Because then I went to the mall today and I'm like, oh, I really want that cute outfit. We have to do some planting, right? Some depositing in our savings account. And then we get to reap the harvest. We get to reap what we sow. Dave Ramsey has a phrase, live like no one else so you can live like no one else. In other words, do the hard things, cut back, tighten that belt so that you can live wealthy later. And so sometimes we have to do that. And then our hobbies. Often we neglect our hobbies, but it's where a lot of us find the most joy. And it's a great example for the young ones in our lives. Because as we take time to enjoy things, then they're going to take that time as well. Health. My health focus this year is growing stronger through strength training. Again, cultivating that day in, day out activity that we need to do to maintain our health and our careers and our finances and our spiritual lives and our relationships. And finally, the good part, right? Flourishing. It has a lot to do with success, that prospering, blossoming, blooming, advancing, bearing much fruit, expanding, that we want and thriving. Because when we think of thriving, we think flourishing. We don't think of those roots. We don't think of the growth that has to happen, because growth is sometimes painful because it requires us to change. And we certainly don't think of cultivating. That's a day in, day out, mundane activity of life. But if we want to flourish, we have to do all of the things before. So what are some ideas for thriving? How do you thrive in 2023? And these are just some real general ideas that I jotted down that I thought of, but they're ideas that I think are important for all of us. First, set your intention for the day. This has been really an important practice for me because so often we get caught in the tyranny of the urgent and we don't sit there and think, wow, what do I really want to do? What would really move the needle? If I did one thing today that would really propel my success, what would that be? I like to do this the night before. You can do it the morning of, but it gives you that structure and that aim for the day. Next, spend time cultivating your spirit. It's so important, however you decide to do this, that you do this, because our spirits are often the most neglected. So whether it's prayer, meditating, reading your sacred texts like your Bible or a book, journaling, practicing gratitude. I have a friend who writes thank you notes, and she'll just take a picture of the thank you note and save it in her little journal app. And that's her gratitude. So she's not just journaling her gratitude, but she's also passing that gratitude on to somebody who made a difference. Or solitude, spending a little bit of time alone. Next, learn to love your own company. I think that this was the greatest gift that 2020 gave me. I learned to be my own best friend, which isn't to say that I don't need others, because I do. I'm an extrovert, but it makes me a better friend to them when I am a good friend to myself. Next, spend time with the people who mean the most to you. So again, cultivating. This could be lunch with a friend, date night, standing date night with your spouse, going to the park with your kids or your dog. Because let's face it, my dog, who is snoring on the couch behind me, is my greatest friend sometimes. It could be going to visit your parents or your grandparents. Whatever it is, whoever is important to you, cultivate those relationships. Get the rest you need. Sleep is essential. It's not optional. In her book, Sacred Rest, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith outlines 7 types of rest that we need. Those are physical, emotional, mental, social, spiritual, creative, and sensory. And so, depending on where we're at, we might need these different kinds of rest. So, think about that. Do you just need a break? I know I needed a lot of sensory rest after I left a really loud event last week. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm done. I just need to sit in a bath in the quiet in the dark." And if I do a really heavy duty cognitive task, I need a mental break. So I'll go do something physical. So that really is a way that you can assess, okay, what kind of rest do I need? Do I feel mentally tired? Do I feel physically tired? Do I feel spiritually tired? Like I need some refreshment. So really just think about that. And then next is so obvious, but it's something that we neglect so much. So eat nourishing foods like a plant like a plant. My orchid, for example, can't survive without the right kind of soil. So our bodies can't really do well, can't thrive with the wrong foods. And now I know a lot of people are doing some detoxes, doing the diet thing. But that's not really as sustainable. Make it a lifestyle. And it's hard because let me tell you, I'm like, I just want a cookie. Like, I don't want to eat that orange for a snack. I want a cookie. But I ate the orange because it was good. It was delicious. And changing my diet permanently actually helped me get super close. I'm not quite there yet, but super close to putting my autoimmune condition in remission, which the medical doctors told me I could not do. So it can be done. And it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work and a lot of intentionality so that you can thrive physically. Next, take daily action to achieve your goals. Writing down your goals is great, but they're going to just languish on your vision board unless you actually put some action to it. So one of the things that I like to do is I have several goals for the year. And I'm like, okay, what is the one action that I could take this week? Because I'm not going to do an action every day. But what one action can I take toward my musical goal? What one action can I take toward my business goals so that I'm constantly moving forward? Next, eat the frog. Overhaul your to-do list. Sometimes it's really helpful to knock out a bunch of small things first and build that momentum, but sometimes, especially on a task that has been languishing and lingering on your to-do list for a while, you just got to do that thing, right? As Mark Twain once said, if you eat a frog first thing in the morning, everything else is going to be easy. That was also a paraphrase, but it's true, right? I mean, if we do our most unpleasant task first, imagine the relief. And that's really something that I've learned. I'm like, oi, I don't want to do that task. That's when I just need to hit it hard and get it done. Learn something new. It doesn't have to be something as hard as the art of French cooking. It could be knitting a cool scarf or learning to play an instrument or learning a new language. Just learning how to say, where's the bathroom so you can go to Mexico is really just something that can spark some creativity and help you thrive. Next, take time for your hobby. We are not productivity machines. It is so important that we're well-rounded and that all work and no play, it really does make us dull. It makes us sad. It makes us come home at night and crash on the couch with a bag of Doritos, a pint and Ben and Jerry's, and then we binge watch Netflix so we're not sleeping. But if we have a hobby, something that we're working on that's just for fun, then it just makes life so much better. I know that when I'm not playing music, my life is dull. It lacks that luster, that shine, that thriving. And finally, I want to say this. No matter what, you can thrive in 2023. No matter what 2022 threw at you, no matter what you're facing. I know somebody who was just diagnosed with cancer, and her intention is to thrive more than she did ever in her life because she doesn't know when life is going to end. So she's like, Amanda, I am going to do this thing. I am doing it and I'm doing it well because I want to thrive in all of the time that I have left. And so the thing that I think about is if 2023 was my last year here, which God forbid, I hope it's not. But if it is, what would I do? And these are the things that I would do. I would coach well. I would play music. I would love on my people, and I would love on my God and learn to chase him with all of my heart, and love on my doggie, of course. She was like, hey, I'm still here. So think about that. And I wish you all the best in 2023. These podcasts are going to come out every other week, so be looking out for the next episode, and I will see you in episode 29. Until then, live your vibrant vision. Are you doing #all the things to build your dream life and business, but still not seeing the results you want? The truth is that being a vibrant visionary and having a vibrant vision is more than just making money. It means making an impact in all areas of your life that matter to you. And this requires clarity on what you want and the steps that you need to take to go after that dream, and confidence to take the actions on your goals so that you can reach them. And finally, connections to spirit, your true authentic self, and those you serve. If you're ready to finally have the impact you dream of, let's talk. Book your complimentary clarity session at vibrantvision.coach/schedule. That's vibrantvision.coach/schedule.